Other Record Labels is supported by LANDR. As you may know, here at Other Record Labels, we've always been on the lookout for a reputable digital distributor that we can confidently recommend to our community, something I get asked about on a weekly basis. And we're proud to say that we finally found it with LANDR Digital Distribution. Not only are they an incredible company with so many features included in your membership, but they're also a Spotify preferred distributor. LANDR makes getting your music on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, TikTok, and tons of other platforms incredibly easy. Plus, they offer fair pricing, no hidden fees, and artist-friendly terms, which is exactly what independent artists and labels like us need. And I'm personally quite fond of the mastering services and the free plugins and some of the samples that you get as well. I'm really incredibly grateful to LANDR for making these weekly episodes possible. If you're looking for a trusted distributor to help get your music heard, check out LANDR using our special link in the episode description, or just head to otherrecordlabels.com/LANDR. That's spelled LANDR. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Other Record Labels. I'm your host, Scott Orr, where we talk about the art and culture of running an independent record label. Today I want to talk about something that's a little bit like, I don't know, it's one of those things we do in the music industry, especially as independent artists or record labels, creating a press one sheet, as what we're talking about today. It's one of those things that we don't, it's like sort of traditional, it's sort of from the old world, but it's actually, the reason why I'm doing today's episode is because I've realized that a lot of labels in our community are still making them. And not only that, but brand new labels are making them and finding them helpful. And I've always thought they've been helpful, and I've never stopped making them. Of course, they've evolved over the years, as we'll talk about. So I want to help you today by giving you a free template that you can download. If you just go to otherrecordlabels.com/one-sheet, that's spelled ONESHEET, otherrecordlabels.com/one-sheet. The link will be in the description of this episode. And we'll talk all about it and explain what it is, but, and I'll remind you of that link. I think I have a Photoshop and then like kind of a more crude Word document version and a PDF as well. Then you can just steal my template. It's, I'm seeing people do them still constantly. And I think that's really cool. And they may not be done in the same way or with the same objective or application as they were 10, 20 years ago. But I still think they're useful. And so I'm going to tell you what it is, a one sheet, a press one sheet, why it's useful today. Is it still useful today? We'll answer those questions. Who do you send it to? What is the ideal format? What do you include in one? And then how do you make one? And how do you deliver it? Lots of questions to go through today. But we're just going to plow through this because it's, I think you'll find it really helpful. And some of you are like, I have no idea what a one sheet is. And some of you are like, I do know, but I thought they weren't really relevant anymore. And so we're going to dive in, talk all about that. First question here is, what is a one sheet? Well, they call it a one sheet because it's everything you need to promote your new release on one sheet. Because more than one sheet, no one has time to read. So it's a good challenge in brevity to condense the most important promotional information onto one sheet. Ultimately, this is a simple PDF, a Word doc, a web page, or even a printed piece of paper that announces a new release, whether it's a single, EP, album, compilation, or an event too, as we'll maybe mention. And it provides the critical details, things like a release date, the album running time, the track listing, the genre, the artist details, the barcode, that kind of stuff. Why is this useful? Well, how we contact the music press is changing every day, and less of the traditional objectives are relevant to us. But I still see a place for the traditional one sheet, if only as a single web page or even just a Canva infographic sort of. It consolidates all of your releases, important info into one location. So if you have a new release and it has a track listing, it has the artist name and the album title and the release date and the record label name and the genres and the artist's hometown and the artist's social media contacts, we're putting all of this into like basically a flyer, like a little advertisement. I should just be clear. Well, as I'll mention in a moment, but this is like a business to business thing, right? This is going to the members of the press. Fans don't see these one sheets. Fans, it's like retailers traditionally who would see them, distributors, members of the press. That's normally who these are for. It's not only handy for the members of the press, as I mentioned, your distributors, but it's also handy for you and the artist to refer to throughout an album's campaign. Sometimes like I need to quickly copy and paste the track listing, and I'll just go back to my one sheet. My one sheet is often a web page, and I'll just like copy and paste that. Or if I need to know the running time of the album, let's say I'm doing vinyl or cassettes and I need to have an idea of how long the album is, I'll go in there, just various things. Like if I need the barcode number or the catalog ID, I just like having all of that information in one place. A great press one sheet shows professionalism to the media. When you send a consistent template of press sheets for every new release, they will notice that over the years. I pride myself back in 2010 when I started my label. I have a background in design, and so I knew what a one sheet was and I knew how to make one. And so I made one, and I think we were making them PDFs, but I also think we were doing them as web pages right from the very beginning. Sometimes both. We would include a PDF version in the email, but also a link to the web page. I prided myself on just using the same template, not because I was lazy, a little bit of that, but more so because it just had this brand consistency to it. It looked really cool. Anyway, I remember we were sending these out for like a year and a half in the first couple of years of our label. I finally got an email back from one of the members of the press who I'd been sending this to, someone fairly reputable at a publication. And they responded and said, I just wanted to say that I really love the look of your press releases, your one sheets. And they never wrote about the album. They didn't do anything to promote the album, but they just were like, I just wanted to say, I appreciate your one sheets. And I really took that, it didn't do anything for the artist or the release, but it did something for my ego. But I mean, just having that consistent press one sheet for every album is all part of the branding of your record label. So is it still useful today? Well, it's less so, but I think it's still good practice, and it's super easy to do. And I'm providing with free templates today, so why not? And even if you did something that's super basic in Word, and then you reuse those templates, then I don't see why you're not doing it. It's still the most handiest way to deliver info about a new venture or a new album. I actually create them for more than just new releases. Like I mentioned, you could create one for artist careers in general, like promoting an artist just in general. If maybe you wanted to book an artist on a tour or something, you create a one sheet about this artist. I've created one to promote the new podcast we had this past year as a way to get guests to come on the show. We created a one sheet. It was two-sided, so it's like maybe two sheets. I mean, one sheets in the past have been two-sided because they were printed out, and sometimes they're color or whatnot. Anyway, so who is this sent to? Well, like I mentioned, anybody who's going to help you promote this new release. So that's music writers, curators, editors, DJs, podcasters, influencers, publicists, managers, promoters, distributors, retailers, anyone who needs to know the basic info of your release. What's the format? Well, let's go back in time. The one sheet form, really, the most obvious application was when you were mailing a CD or even a vinyl to a DJ or to at a radio station or to a music programmer or to a newspaper or a magazine. You wouldn't just include the letter, you wouldn't just include the record. You would include a brief little cover letter, like a little note, introducing yourself and explaining what you're sending. And then a one sheet. A one sheet would have a photo of the artist and have the record label's information and who to contact from the label. It would have the release day, maybe the singles, maybe some accolades from who this artist is and what they've accomplished. So back in the day, it was literally one sheet as a way to kind of accompany a demo or a new release or something, just to give some more context. And so back then it was a piece of paper. And I mean, there's probably still applications for having a piece of paper. But today, I think probably the most obvious would be a PDF, because then it can be printed. It's an 8.5 by 11 size generally. But most likely it'll just be read in email, attached in emails. You can create this PDF in any software, something like Adobe or Word or Canva probably. I've included 2 templates for you. I included a Word version and a Photoshop version. The Photoshop version is way more professional and bespoke, and you can get in there if you know Photoshop. You can get in there and tweak things around, make it look really great. You may want to hire someone on Fiverr. Here's what I would suggest to you. Find someone who knows how to use Photoshop pretty good, who can do press releases on Fiverr, and download my PSD, my Photoshop template for free, and then send that to them and say, hey, can you take this template and make these tweaks? It shouldn't take them more than a half an hour to make the tweaks, to basically take your information and replace mine. So if you don't know how to use Photoshop, you can do that. But I think you could probably copy my template in whatever software you're comfortable with. If that's Canva, if that's like some sort of Google Doc, whatever you're most comfortable with, copy my template. The handy thing is that once you've created a template, even if you have a designer create you your own, then that's something that you can just reuse over and over. And you maybe are editing the future release information yourself, or you're paying a designer to do it. But once you pay or get that first one made, or just use mine, that's kind of the heavy lifting. So next question. What do you include in a one sheet? So really, I mean, there's no rules. You could include whatever you think will help promote the record, whatever you think makes you look cute. It's kind of like a resume. Think of a one sheet as a resume for a new release, or something new. And, you on resumes, some people like to get really cute and really creative. But here are the basics. Artist name, album title, album cover. That's a big one. Press photo of the artist, maybe photo credit of the photographer, a bio of the release, not necessarily of the artist. So if you're promoting a new single, or if you're promoting a new album, usually one sheet is made for a new album. Let's be honest, an EP, a live album, whatever. The little bio that might be like, I don't know, like 100 words, 200 words. That little bio is usually a bio about the album itself. So where it was recorded, what the artist is trying to accomplish, what the themes are of this album. It's very rare that you might do a miniature bio of the artist as well to follow, say so-and-so's from this town. They've been doing music for 20 years, blah, blah, blah. But usually the bio is of the release. Track listing is very common. The genre or multiple subgenres is very common. Also for fans of. So if you want to list 2 or 3 bands or artists that your artist sounds like, that can be helpful for people. Accolades is another one I see a lot. So if your artist has had previous success on streaming platforms, if they have over 10 million streams combined over the past few years on Spotify, or maybe they've been featured on some really great playlists, maybe they've won an award. That's take the top 5 accolades and include those in short form, like in point form. Retail info is great as well. Your catalog ID, your barcode number, your UPC. I generally don't include ISRCs, but I suppose you could, but I don't see that very often. That's for your distributor. That's going a bit too much. Artist social links is really good to have. Not too many. It's really nice if they have a consistent @. So if their username's the same on Instagram as it is on TikTok, etc. An artist website is good to have. And then there's also like a little bottom boilerplate for the record label logo, the record label contact details website, in case somebody wants to reach out to you and they don't have your contact info. In the olden days, like if a one sheet was found in a record store somewhere and they're like, oh, I want to talk to the label about this, or I want to do an interview, not knowing where this one sheet came from, they could contact the number on the bottom. Again, not totally relevant, but it doesn't hurt to have it. Here's a little tip. Be creative. When you Google examples, you'll see that some are far more exciting than the template I've provided. The reason I like my template, and for folks in our community have borrowed it over the years, it's because it's reusable and it provides your label with uniformity across all of your releases. It's also quick and easy to repopulate with each new release. But take a moment to Google press one sheets and you'll find a bunch of really unique stuff. You'll find some black and white ones that you can photocopy. You'll find some super intense color ones. And if you're only sharing these as like a JPEG infographic in emails or a PDF or on a web page, then the sky's the limit. You can really design it however you want and be super creative. And you can do a different one for each release and press start to look forward to the creativity you put into your press one sheets. Next question is, how do you make one? Well, I've touched on this a little bit. I'm providing a link to a PDF version, a Photoshop version, and an editable Word version. If you have a simple web provider like Squarespace, I would also suggest you do that. In fact, that might be one of the best ways, and it's the current way I do it. I just create a slug address like yourlabelname.com/artist-album name. And then it's somewhat hidden and you can hide it from search engines as well. And then you can just reuse that template by just duplicating that page for each new release. I prefer, instead of attaching a PDF, I just prefer to include a link in the email. Say, click here for the one sheet. And that way I can track it too. I can see how many people view it, and I can make edits on the fly. If I send a PDF and I find out there's a template or I want to change a link, then it's much easier to do that on a website. On a website also, and we'll talk about digital in a second, you can embed things like a Bandcamp private stream or a SoundCloud private stream or a YouTube video. You can have another web page that lists all your one sheets as well too. Like you can, using a web page, you can kind of link to your previous releases at the bottom, like have a little footer of your last couple of releases in case a press is impressed with your release, and maybe somewhere on that web page of the one sheet you have links to your other releases. That could be really cool. The easiest and most rudimentary way and free way to do it would also to be like a Google Doc or Google Sheets or whatever. It would be totally ugly, but it would work. Another question you might have is, do I do a digital one or a print one, or both? Print version is probably the most dated version, although if you're sending a free vinyl to a DJ or someone important, you may want to print off a one sheet. So the ability to do both makes a lot of sense. A lot of PDFs are in the standard 8.5 by 11 format, so they can be printed. I'm sure most aren't, however. Digital is what I really like. In fact, if you know how to make a hybrid where you can create a printable PDF that has active web links in there. So you can link to a high-res photo of the artist. So for example, let's say you do this 8.5 by 11 PDF. Not a lot, but some software will allow you to create links when creating an interactive digital PDF. So if you wanted to, let's say you included a small little picture of the artist. Well, what happens if somebody wants to include a write-up for that album in the newspaper? Instead of emailing you back for a high-res version of that little photo that's in the PDF, when they click on it, it sends them to a Dropbox or a Google Drive of that actual high-res photo. Same thing with the album cover. You can also include things like in a link, you can say, click here to listen, and it links over to SoundCloud, or it links over to a full download of the album if DJs want that. So a hybrid digital PDF is really, really cool. But again, maybe we just do a website. To me, that's why I do one on Squarespace. It's a private link. It's not password protected, but most people aren't going to find it because it has like a unique URL. I just prefer to do that because then you can embed a SoundCloud of the whole album, showing the album cover and the track listing, or a Bandcamp private link. You can throw in a YouTube video. Like I said, you can update it on the fly. So you can use my template attached. Canva, I imagine, would have something as well. I don't use Canva, but I'm sure there's something in there that you can use. So then how do you deliver it? Okay. This is where my bonus tip comes in. Obviously, you're going to email this to someone. I remember a day when we used to print it off and mail it, a photocopied version to newspapers and magazines with a copy of my CD. That was so expensive. I mean, not printing these off, that was the easy part, but like folding it nicely, putting it in an envelope, and sending these manila envelopes all over the world and getting no response. Today, it's simple to just attach this PDF to an email or to provide a clear link in the email to where the web page is that you've made, or perhaps it's a large JPEG you've made in Canva or Photoshop. That works too. So I have two bonus tips for you. Okay. In the email where you are sending this one sheet, include the basics of the one sheet in the email as well. For example, I'm going to send an email to a writer at Pitchfork, and I might attach the PDF, or I might attach a link to my Squarespace page where I'm hosting this press one sheet. But in the email, in the body of the email, I'm going to say, hey, John, I hope this finds you well. You got to say that. Everybody says that. And then I'll pull out maybe just like the most important things from the press one sheet, assuming they might not have time to read it. So I might just say the artist name, the album title, the release date, and maybe do a one-liner about the new release. So it's like new folk jazz album from so-and-so out June 1st, 2026. And most importantly, I include live links to hear the record. So again, as we talk about this one sheet, I'm kind of saying people may not read it. So if you're sending a one sheet, it's like almost like you're sending step 2 to them, because step 1 is going to be opening your email and reading what this release is, a one-liner, clicking the link to be able to stream it instantly. No friction at all. We don't want to send them to MP3s or WAV files. It's basically, people are not going to read a 2-page bio if the music is crap or if the music isn't relevant to their blog or their playlist. So everyone just wants to hear it ASAP. So a link to a private SoundCloud or a private Bandcamp, streaming links, not MP3s or Dropbox or Google Drive, you morons. I don't want a huge WAV file with no metadata. Don't attach MP3s in emails. Here's what I include in this email. So just pay attention, write this down. Hello, I hope this finds you well. Scott here from Other Songs. I wanted to let you know about a new folk jazz release we have coming out on June 25th, 2026. It will be released digitally and on 180 gram vinyl as well as CD. Here's a link to the press page. Here's a link to the private stream. Please reach out if you have any questions at all. Thanks for your consideration. Bam. There you go. That's it. So the important details are in the body of the email. And then I might attach a link to my one sheet webpage, or you can attach a link to your PDF one sheet. And guess what? It's usually enough. It basically cannibalizes your one sheet, but the chances of somebody seeing your email in their inbox is slim. The chances of someone opening your email is slimmer. The chances of someone opening and reading your email is slimmer and slimmer. The chances of someone seeing your email, opening it, reading it, and opening a PDF, you might as well just buy a lottery ticket. But that doesn't mean the one sheets aren't great to have, and they're easy. My second little bonus tip, this was from an episode we did years ago, is when you're sending this email where you're attaching your one sheet, include the artist name, album title, and release date, and maybe genre in the subject line of the email. So don't just say new release or hey or what's up in the subject line of your email. I'll say new jazz folk album from Scott Orr, due June 25th. That's my subject line. New jazz folk album from Scott Orr, due June 25th. So what am I doing? Well, new indicates this is a press email. Jazz folk album is if you write about jazz, and if jazz folk, that interesting combination, excites you, then you might open this email. If you recognize my name, and some of my press contacts would recognize my name, they might open that email. And then due June 25th kind of gives them a sense of how far in advance am I getting this email. June 25th, 2026, I'm getting it really far in advance, or maybe that's a couple weeks away. I don't have time to write about it, so I'm going to ignore it. Do you know what I mean? So that's your second little bonus step. Okay, there you have it. That's what a one sheet is. Listen, here's the summary, folks. Even though I know it's really hard and tough to send your albums to the press, but here's the bottom line. A press one sheet is still relevant. It's not expensive to make. It might be expensive to make the first one, but then it's really easy to duplicate them for future releases. Or you can just use my template and you can create one in 20 minutes for free. It doesn't hurt to send it with your press emails. It's helpful. It's also really helpful for you to look professional and organized, and helpful for you and your artist to keep all of your information in one place. Because during the length of a campaign, oftentimes people will email you for the running time, they'll email you for the track listing, they'll email you for a quick link to the high-res photo, and to have that to be able to just send over a press one sheet or a link to a website, especially if you use my format of yourname.com/ album title. If you do that, it's kind of hidden from the general public, but you can, if you're on the fly, like if you're traveling and you're not near a computer and you get an email from someone and they ask a question about an album, you know what the link to that press release is. You don't have to look for it for that one sheet. You know it's just a link using your standard format. Or maybe it's like yourrecordlabelname.com/the catalog ID, whatever your catalog ID is. And so you can just send that to them on the fly. So I find them to be really helpful, super inexpensive and easy to make. And it's good exercise. It's just a good exercise to do to stay organized. I hope you found this helpful. Click the link in the description, go to otherrecordlabels.com/one-sheet, where you can download my template. And I have some visual examples too that you can look at on that website. So go grab that, do that. I hope you found it helpful. We couldn't do this without our sponsors like LANDR. So a huge thank you to LANDR. Check them out if you're looking for a digital distributor that offers more than just the normal stuff. They have some incredible tools and resources and courses for indie labels and independent artists. So give them a shout, and thanks to them for sponsoring. Go to otherrecordlabels.com/LANDR. LANDR is spelled LANDR. Thanks for listening.